Stampers, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. Today, the card I'm going to do for you, I'm going to use one of the sets that we'll be using in my upcoming winter online retreat. This year my retreat is just online because I was going to say it's 2020, but it's 2021. So hopefully either later this year the autumn retreat or next year's retreat will have an in-person and an online version. But we're going to escape to the beach. So you can stay in your jammies in a cold winter climate, but we're going to escape to the beach on paper. So there are 3 different ways you can participate. No matter where you live in the world, you can do just the videos. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it's all on YouTube. So you can watch it in April. If you're in Australia, you can watch it then when it's winter in your neck of the woods. So you can do it however you want, but you can do just the videos. You can do the videos and add the card supplies. So the paper, the ribbon, the embellishments, and then either buy the stamps yourself or get the stamp sets that you like, or you can get the whole shebang where you get the 3 stamp bundles, the videos, and the card supplies, and then a bunch of freebies. So if you do it that way, it's really the best bargain because you're gonna get a whole lot of extra stuff. But it's up to you. You can do it either of the ways. The videos, you'll have access to those for at least a year. So you'll have plenty of time to get them done. So if you like extra projects. So we're gonna use the Sand and Sea Suite. And if you don't like these sets, or if you already have a shell set, there will be ways that you can just make it work with the supplies that you get, or just get ideas if you just do the videos. So we're gonna do the Sand and Sea Suite. We're going to do the Flamingo, which I'm doing today. And we're gonna do Shark Frenzy. And then I'm gonna also, like if I do a Shark Frenzy card, I'll show you an alternate version. Not a video how to, but just an alternate version where I may have done the Shark Frenzy, but instead I used the Sand and Sea stamp set. And we'll do some mixing and matching too. So it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll put the registration link down below this video and on my email. My email is always the best way to know what's going on, because sometimes by the time I get all my video, my blog and everything done, I forget something. My email goes out often enough that there's just tidbits of information. Always has my host code, at least in every other one, but because you're getting it about twice a week, it's the best way to stay in touch. But some stuff will be mix and match. So it's just gonna be a lot of fun and low key, and it'll get your mind off of it. You can do it with your sister, your girlfriend that stamps, make your husband go someplace else and just have the house to yourself. So today, this is I'm gonna be real honest, and it was in my head, and so I was determined to make it work. And this is the new Pearl paper, which is my favorite paper, but it's a learning curve in the back of the one that, I did. So I tried lots of different ways. So this way that I'm going to show you works. So before you waste all your Pearl paper, I tried lots of options, and this one works. And it was a combination of the Pearl paper and this stamp set. So the Friendly Flamingo is a bundle, and it is photopolymer, and it's got I tried embossing it with white embossing powder because I wanted it to be a really light, subtle card. But you can see it's got all the images in there. So like when I would emboss, it was just kind of flat. And that all filled in with powder because we don't have the detail powder anymore. Not that I know that would have worked on the Pearl paper. It was a whole combination. So I have been working on this card for far longer, considering the finished product pretty much looks how I wanted it to look. But it took a long time to get there. But it's a really fun set. And if you just stamp it in black and color it in, it'd be a whole lot easier. But now you can just do this one just like how I did it, and it'll be super fun. So we're gonna use the foil that comes from one of the Valentine suites, and then the Pearl paper, which is part of the Sand and Sea. And then I really wanted to stick one of these on here, which when I was all said and done, none of them matched my color scheme. You can see I tried, it was just too pink, but these are from the Sand and Sea Suite. It's a tongue twister. Like a seashell tongue twister. They're on Pearl paper, and this was just too bright, and the other ones I didn't use the color, so it was what it was. So here's the Pearl paper. I have a couple of videos using those. It's really pretty. And then I have Jade and the petal pink. So let's stamp first. So I found that this stamp set really makes a difference if you stamp on one of our stamping surfaces. So I highly recommend that before you waste, if you're stamping on the pearl paper. I haven't even used this on regular paper, so that may make all the difference. Then I used jade. So if you're stamping on pearl paper with regular ink, there's a dry time. So you can just heat it and let it dry, but I also wanted to color it in, so that was part of my issue. So I'm gonna start with the long one. You can also, there's dies for all of these, so I could have cut them out, but that wasn't the way the card was in my head, so I didn't want to cut them out, but I could have. Just letting you know that we will be cutting them out on future cards, but this was the card I saw in my head, and this is how I wanted it. So there's the jade of those, and jade's the only ink I'm going to use. And then here's this pretty, this is the one I started with, and I did use brown stays on, so now my stamp is stained. I did wash it off right away because if you use stays on photopolymer, you need to get it off. But it wasn't the look I was going for. And this is the one that really needs this pad, because to get the middle of this flower, I was having issues when I wasn't using it. So there's that. And it just takes, you could heat set it, and heat setting it was working well. But then when I went to color it in, it just reactivated. Here's some little, reactivated the ink, and it would all smear again. And now here's a little tip for you. See this empty space? I don't want that to be empty. I want this all to be filled in. And so I have this grass that has little flat, little water patterns. I just want the water patterns. So since it's photopolymer, just hold it straight up in the air and just get the water. See, I didn't get any of the grass. I'm gonna do it again. Just get those tiny little things at the bottom. No grass, because you control it, because you can see it. And then these words are in the set. So I'm gonna go with a happy birthday, because I think we all use those the most. So happy birthday. And then just a fun one that says you're outstanding for the flamingo. So if you just want this to be with this way, because it's pretty, and after I tried a lot of things, I debated, maybe I'll just leave it jade, because this would be pretty with our flamingo on top. That's pretty. But in my head, it had a little bit, it had a touch of color, and I was determined to get that touch of color on there. So old technique that we used to do a lot, but when you did it, you kind of had to work fast. This you don't have to work fast, because the pearl paper does take some time to dry. So I'm going to emboss it with some clear embossing powder. And you'll see, it's been a minute since I did this, because if you do this on regular cardstock, that would have been too dry. There's no way that you would have, that ink would still be wet enough to emboss. So just get it all in there. You want to make sure everything gets covered, because if everything's not covered, then that will still be, so hopefully you can see it. It's another gray winter day here. That's why we need to escape to the beach, right? Pretend that we are out. So you can see this perfectly stuck, all embossed. The nice thing about clear embossing powder is there are a couple of places, like right here, where my fingers were a little, because I've cleaned the stamps off so many times from the different colors I've used, where there's a little fingerprint, but it doesn't matter because it's clear. So we've got that. So let's heat that. I think most of you, if you're watching this, you've probably embossed. So I'm gonna let my gun get hot for a second. And then I'm gonna show you the best way to emboss, especially when you're not using one of the metallic embossing powders. I see so many people, and when they emboss, they wave it. And when you wave it, it's hard to see that you've got it. So just hold it in one spot. And then when you see that change, then move it. Because otherwise, a lot of times you miss the edges and the corners, and then if it's a metallic, it just rubs off. Aiming it for you to see, it's hard for me to see if it's melting. And it does take your gun a second to get hot, especially in the winter when if you're in a cold climate. Here, I can see it changing now. But if you move it on when you see it changing, instead of doing this, because when you do this, it doesn't get hot long enough in one spot. Seems like a good idea because that's how we dry our hair. I know I don't have those leaves, but see where it's shiny? Everywhere it's shiny, that's heat set. Everywhere it's still dusty, that needs to be. I'll do the rest and then I'll fast forward it. And when you think you're done, just take it in the light and just turn it around. That tip of that leaf right there still needs to be done. I think I got it, and maybe the tip of the Y. It's often the tips of stuff that you miss. Once your gun's hot, it heats up much quicker. So we've got that. Now it's embossing powder and your blends is not the best combination. And I'm not sure why. And maybe it's not even true, but I've heard that. And I don't want to ruin my blends. And on this, there's not enough color that you can even blend. So we're going to go old school, and we are going to color with our Stampin' Rights. And especially during celebration right now, when you spend $50 or $100 and get a free thing, for those of you that need to increase the color families of the Stampin' Right markers that you have, or if you've always wanted the whole entire box full of them, which is fabulous to have because they just sit here on the table with me. So there you get all of the colors, and you can use them on your stamps. This is a great time to get them because when you get them, you'll get some free stuff. So this is the Petal Pink. And actually I was able to go with some darker colors than I thought because it kind of sits on top of the embossing powder. And then I'm going to use this. I'll show you. This is shaded Spruce, which is in my color subtle pretty card in my head. It did not have Spruce, but you put it over the top of this and it's resisting all that embossing powder, and it just needs to go down there in the hole. So if you color this with your blends, the blends are going to color your embossing powder. This is just a little sponge dauber, and I'm just going to wipe off the top, and then it just colors the bottom. Then I'm going to take my Pool Party, and down here where I've got my water, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do it before I've colored all the other leaves because then it won't blend with them, because this all stays wet as well. So the same problem that you have with the ink staying wet when you color is going to happen here. So then this is soft seafoam, and in my card in my head it was all soft seafoam and all petal pink, but that wasn't quite enough color on here. That was how I did it first, and I was like, well, you really can't see any of that. And actually the soft seafoam was a little bit more brighter green than I thought it might be. So let's do this one right here in soft seafoam. And this one right here is the same leaf. Sometimes I get a little bit funny about getting my leaves the same, and it doesn't really matter because when they're all smucked on here, you're not going to really be able to tell. Get these little ones in the spruce because they're, again, I use my brush tip so it gets down in there, but you can use, if you want to use your bullet tip and try, you can too. And this big one, I've got mint. For those of you that know that I am a squeaker when I color with my blends, I noticed I do the same thing when I color with my markers. So just kind of get those. And what you want to kind of do is separate the color. So here I've got these two, and this one over here. I don't want them all to be right next to another one. So I'm going to go back with, just kind of separates the leaves. So the different kinds of leaves have, just get separated out. But that spruce really does need the little touch of the dauber just to pick it up off the embossing powder. Just kind of smush it down in there. Then I have Melon Mambo, and we're going to need the little thing for it as well. Just going to go right over. Now when you've used the blends for a lot, you try to make these blend, they don't blend. They just set color on top of color. And you're gonna go back and try to get it to go darker by doing multiple colors, because we're spoiled because we've used our blends for so long. But you can see I can put more color and it doesn't get much darker. It gets a tad bit darker, but you know, if I kept doing this with our blends, I could get those to be a whole lot darker, and I can go back and get my greens to be darker. That doesn't work. It's getting a little bit darker because it's pulling that Mambo off. And then the last one I have is Smoky Slate. That's just a little bit for the stem. You could ask why I don't know if I colored the grass. Maybe I did. Maybe it just all sunk in. I would have used a brown color, but they must all be over on my other working area. I have 2 places where I work, and I'm in the middle of filming. I have 11 projects for my Try It class because I couldn't get all the papers on Tim, and I filmed some of them. But when you have that many things ready to film, there's not a whole lot of space on this table right now. So as I said, we're gonna have the same issue with drying with these markers. So you could let it dry and just set it aside. I don't wanna do that because I want you guys to see the finished card. Plus this gives it a real water look, and it makes it a little fancy. We've already got the metallic, the foil and the pearl paper, and we're gonna add some pearl accents. So let's just go with fancy. And you can see, again, it's stuck to every place that's wet. So that's how wet the markers were, that they still held the embossing powder. This time you don't have to heat up there because we didn't do anything to that. And it just gives it a fun water look. Hopefully you can see it. Because now the whole entire thing has color on top of color. Anytime you double emboss, it just makes it thicker. That same leaf I missed again. Make sure I got it all. So hopefully you can see how pretty that is. You can see a couple of places where I've touched it and it's got powder, but I'll just knock that off now because it didn't heat, which you don't really want it to heat. If it does on the clear, it's not a big deal. If that was gold or black or one of the other colors or silver, you would want that off. Otherwise you'd have a nice little fingerprint on your card. Okay, now we're gonna use the dies of the Flamingo. There's 2 dies, so you can stamp the Flamingo and color her in, and then cut her out, or you can use the one that is just the solid. And that's what I'm gonna go with. That was how I designed my card because I wanted her to be out of this pretty petal pink foil. I'm gonna use the mini machine. And if you purchase this from me this month, then I will also give you a free set of plates. And it comes with everything you need, but I'm just going to give you extra because I know people don't like to buy extra plates. And all those details are on my website. And there's also thank you gifts. I give thank you gifts every month. So that one of the things with these is you can tell I just cut her right here because you can see her. So it's important to just kind of flip these around because there's not a lot of surface. And if you just keep running them through the same direction, even if it's just one person, always if you're a demonstrator and you make lots of stuff, but you just want to kind of change where you're going to do it. So let's back these up, move this all the way to the front because it can tell where you've cut. And then there is a Flamingo. And then her 2 wings. One for the front and one for the back. The one that's in the front has some cute little embossing features. And then just stick this on. Now here's some tips. You want to make sure that these are even at the front, because there's just the larger machine just has so much more surface for it to grab. So you want them to be even here, but then I think it works better if they're even there and then just a tad crooked, because then I think it grabs better. So it just rolls through like the big one. It does move a little bit more because the other one has weight, and that's why I like my silicone mat underneath it. If I move it, if I'm using it not in this part of the table where I film all the time and my table's not as slippery, because it's got more paint on it, then it doesn't move because the feet grip better. So we've got all of our little pieces. So if space is not an issue, if you never take your machine anywhere, and you use lots of the regular size embossing folders, my honest opinion is that if you already have the big one, just keep the big one. Or if you are thinking about getting one and you're not sure between the two, the big one's a better choice. The little one is nice if you are somebody who stamps a lot, like I do, and table space is an issue, or if you're gonna put it in, if you wanna travel with it, then the little one might be a great option. But my main thing with the little one is the embossing folders, because we use those so often and most of them only fit in the big one. And there's not that much difference in price. So I'm gonna put the jade on here first. So that's just my personal opinion. And especially right now during celebration, if you're gonna get one, then you're gonna get some free ones. So I'm gonna use, this is from, well, let me see what the name of it is. Metallic ribbon, that's not telling me. I think it is from, I don't think it's from, I don't know. It's not from this suite. I'm not sure which one it's from, because I don't think that it may be from the Valentine suite. I'll put all of the links so if you want to purchase any of this down below. And if you are in the online retreat, then you'll get some with your projects because it matches it perfectly. I'm just at a loss right now because I have used it on several projects that it's not part of the suite of, and apparently I have not filmed it, or I filmed it too many days ago. Now here's a trick. When you're doing, see, it's double-sided. So this is not as petal pink as this side is petal pink. And I want this really pretty coppery petal pink side to show. So when you flip this over and then you come back this way, get a bigger loop so you can see. When you go this way, then when you shove this through, twist it here. See that little twist? So when it comes through, it's coming through with that side showing. See? And when you pull it, the twist is under the knot and not twisted up here, because I see a lot of people, and when they try to do this, then this side is this. And on some of our ribbons, it's two different colors. Like we've had them that are olive on one side and peacock on the other. So that looks pretty. This is not the pretty side. So then pull that tight, and then you can adjust the size of your ribbon. And when we go to tape it down, that's why I'm doing a taped ribbon, because then I'll be able to control which side I tape down of the other piece. So just pull that tight. This one's a little bit bigger than I would like because I wanted to show you how to do it. So let's work it back. There we go. So let's take, the seal works really well for this. Put my seal here. Stick that down. Trim that off. Now see, this is going to go this way, but I'm not going to let it. So I'm going to flip it underneath the knot. There. And now we have all pretty showing. Back over here, I'll pull that. And normally if I'm doing a ribbon, I would just now pull it to the other side. But because I want these to make sure that they stay this way when I flip them, I'm going to add a little bit of the Seal Plus. And then if you want to add a glue dot to make this stay, you can. I think mine's going to stay pretty well. And then just hold these, flip this over. This is just a good way to make sure that the pretty side of your ribbon is showing on this card. If you're using a card, the paper that this goes with, it's not that fine art. I don't know why I can't think of what paper it goes with. If it matches the paper on both sides, but I don't want this really pink showing because it doesn't really match my design. Is that not the prettiest? Now we're gonna take our little girl, and you need to put her together first. So take this back wing and just add, the seal is so nice, the Seal Plus, because it comes off in these little strips. So give her a wing back here. And this one has the little, you'll know the front because it has the designs. And I'll take some close-up pictures of all of this, especially so you can see what that looks like embossed. And give her front wing. Then I'm going to take some dimensionals just so she's kind of raised up off of our card. And you need two. One I'm going to put so it goes over both the wing and her body. And then this one over here. Stick her there. And then the opal rounds are part of the Sand and Sea Suite. I do know that. And then I almost always use 3. You don't want to use an even number because your eye doesn't know where to go. But these look like little water bubbles. So if you use an odd number, so you could use 3, you could use 5. Sometimes I use 5. But I very rarely use 1 because here's the deal. If you use 1 of your full packs of embellishments, then 5 years from now, you're still going to have these. So make your card be beautiful and use 3. Stick that there. There you go. So it took a minute for me to get it from my head onto paper. Anytime and don't be afraid to play with it. If you don't have multiple sheets of the pearl paper like I do, then start with something small and just take a small stamp and kind of play with it. I didn't know, because I have stamped with the Stays On one of the cards that we're going to do in the Try It class. So I knew that worked. I've colored with it on the blends on the card that I made with the Sand and Sea. So I knew that worked. So I thought that I had done enough kind of messing around, but just cut like a little square. Take one, this set has a tiny little flower. That one, do it small scale. Don't ruin a whole giant piece of paper like I did. But that's part of the fun of playing, is just kind of figuring out what works. Here's my other one. It's a card that isn't going to turn out too terribly different every time. But I'd love to have you join me in my online retreat. You don't have to, I wanted to also say, you don't have to be there for any of it. So on Friday night, I'll post videos. Saturday morning, I'll post videos. But you don't have to actually be there for any of it. It's do as you are. I will be available that weekend to answer questions. But I'm always available to answer your questions. So that's not a biggie. I may hop on and do a Facebook Live, but I know a lot of you aren't on Facebook. So I like to just keep it more on YouTube. Everybody have a great week, and I will post some more later. Bye.